What is up, guys? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit the like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this podversation. And this is going to be the third part and almost the conclusion of my little series that I'm doing on TEA-GIF that was on Foxhole, that has been canceled, and how I believe that every party that was a co-host on the show contributed to the demise of the show. I know there's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of blame to go around. A lot of people feel like this one is more responsible than the other, or this one was a victim or whatnot. I already talked about Al, already shared my thoughts on Armand. If you have not heard those commentaries, you can go back and listen to them. They were posted right before this one. And this is going to be my thoughts on Claudia Jordan. Now, I'm just sharing this, basically my thoughts, my views, and my opinions straight from my brain and from my heart. So I'm not coming with any ill intentions, but I know that she gets a lot of heat. I wouldn't even say she gets a lot of hate. I know that that term hate and hating on or whatever is a popular term to use, but I just believe, just based, even if I don't 100% agree with everybody's thoughts about her, there's some I do agree with. And I do believe that some people, not everybody, I'm not talking about everybody in people's comment sections, but mainly the people that have shared their views and opinions that may be content creators or some, on some level of having a voice or a platform that has shared their thoughts on Claudia. It's come from their own personal and maybe / professional experiences. So I will never take anything away from these people's feelings about how they feel based on their personal experiences with this woman, because I don't know her, never met her, probably never will. I'm just sharing my thoughts on what I've seen. So with that being said, why I wanted to share my thoughts on why I believe she definitely played a role in the demise of the show. And it starts from the beginning. I talked about this a little bit before in a previous commentary that I discussed, where it was like, just based on what we see today, in light of the things that we see today, and me even knowing back then when the show started, that it was similar to the concept that Nene had revealed, that she had previewed and she announced on her platform, her Instagram, her social media, whether it looked janky, ghetto, hood, ratchet, low budget, whatever the terms were that people would say about it. We just cannot deny the fact. And I'm going to give it to Nene. I don't hate Nene. I've shared my thoughts on some things in regards to her and not being in agreement with everything. But I can do that. I can say things that I see that I agree with and things that I see that I don't necessarily agree with when it comes to particular people. And when it comes to Nene, I will give her that. She definitely came out with the concept, sharing, these shows where people share tea and gossip and talk about what's trending, whatever. That's nothing new. That has been going on since there has been the television shows like E! News Network. It was all about entertainment news, right? The Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, the television shows. These would be talking heads that were hired to share news. And it was, in a lot of ways somewhat biased, because they can only do so much because they're on networks and they have advertisers and sponsors and all of those different things. So they couldn't do things that were going to piss off these people, because it's about the money at the end of it all. So, but again, it was about sharing news and entertainment and stuff like that. And then, you had the other things, that the blogs, now, YouTube, the different YouTubers, content creators, the Instagram blogs. That's what goes on. So there's nothing new with that. But Nene's little idea, I don't say little trying to be condescending, but I'm just basically saying Nene's idea that she shared, I'll say it like that. It was herself being the main person, and then these two or three different guys that happen to be, no denying that, in the LGBTQ community, where they're going to sit around and talk about what's trending and the gossip and the whatnot, right? And Funky Dineva talked about it. And then Claudia, not long after that, announces this new show called TEA-GIF on Fox Soul. Because here's the thing. She was already on Fox Soul. She had her show before called Out Loud with Claudia Jordan. Then she had Cocktails with Queens. And then after that, it was TEA-GIF. TEA-GIF was going on corresponding to, or coinciding, I should say, running concurrent with Cocktails with Queens, Out Loud with Claudia Jordan, that was done. So with all of those things being said and considered, it did look messy that she came out with this idea with these 3 gay guys. Funky Dineva, Alreynolds, Gary with the T. Gary with the T dropped off due to his contractual obligations with Ricky Smiley. And maybe Ricky Smiley not liking Claudia Jordan too. I don't know. I don't know what all that's about either. But I'm just basically saying that there's an old saying, if you don't start out the right way, you don't end the right way. And I'm not saying that Claudia could not do a show where she was already doing something with Cocktails with Queens. So obviously I'm not saying she couldn't do a show or another show where she was doing things like this. But honestly, we have to be honest, and I'm just being beautifully honest. She was already doing a show with Selena Johnson, Lisa Ray, and Vivica Fox, or Vivica A. Fox, Cocktails with Queens, where they were pretty much doing the same thing that she was doing on TGIF. It was just with these 3 women who are, celebrities. Let's just be real. So it does appear, and it did appear, that she was taking on Nene's, not so much her identity, but taking on her idea and doing it with these 3 gay guys. So if Claudia was just honest, she could just say, look, yeah, I saw the idea that Nene put out there and I thought I could do it, but I could do it better. People do stuff like that all the time. I'm not one for the copycat thing, but hey, if somebody's able to make it work and they're honest about it from the jump, then more power to you. As long as you're not stealing, like literally stealing from someone, you can use somebody else's ideas as inspiration if you can make it work and be legitimate about it. But when it looks like you're being sneaky and copying someone, a lot of people are just not going to respect it. But let's just be honest. We do live in a world where colorism exists. We do. It's all over the world. It's not just in the United States. The Indian culture, they deal with it, where the lighter skinned Indians in India, I'm not talking about Native American Indians, but those too. Colorism exists all over the globe. A lot of people don't even know that even though Indians are considered Asians, but I'm talking about like Chinese Asians, like there are those Asians where their skin is really dark, like really dark, but you don't really see them because they're hidden. Lighter skin is seen to be more fairer, more appealing, more desirable. So you have Nene presenting something that looked janky and ratchet. She's a darker skinned woman. She had these 2 or 3 gay guys that just looked like she just rolled them up off the street. And even I talked about that and played a little bit of what Funky Dineva had to say when he gave his reaction to it. So it does look, and it did appear of a mess, like a messy thing, that Claudia was taking on Nene's idea and making it her own and using 3 gay guys to be her tag-alongs on the show. And one of the main ones who was supposed to be, one of the main co-hosts, which he was, but, he's no longer on it, Funky Dineva, he was the one who had did commentary on it, which I watched it. I remember when it came out, because that's how I found out about it. I wasn't following all these people on Instagram. I was barely on there like that. So that's how I learned about it. A lot of things that I've learned about, I learned through YouTube by way of people sharing it from what they saw on Instagram. So it was news to me when Funky Dineva shared it. So when Funky Dineva was casted as a co-host on this show that Claudia was able to have greenlit, and every time he opened up, he would do the hand gesture like Nene did when she was showing what she had created. It does look like it was copied. So, you know, when you don't start out the right way, it's not surprising when things don't end the right way. And it may seem like things will go on for years. I often say, because I've dealt with this in business before, and I've had people copy and steal from me in business. And I always say, you build your business, you just like a building, brick by brick. The foundation has to be sure and solid. And you could build it and it could get built up and it could look like it's built to last, stand there for a long time. But ultimately, the cracks are in the foundation, and then it eventually will start to deteriorate, possibly implode, and ultimately come crumbling down. So if you don't start out the right way, it won't end the right way. So honestly, all of this stuff that came to a head with the roast, with the issues with Al and her and Al not getting along, and we thought that they were friends, and it turns out that Al can't stand her and she can't stand Al. And like, where did you really think that was going to be able to go? She created, I wouldn't say she created a monster, but she contributed to the monster that was created. Because I'll be honest, I kind of feel like once he got a taste of that spotlight when he married Star, a monster was created because he wanted that spotlight. He wanted to shine brighter than the brightness of his skin. He wanted those lights on him. He loved the attention. He lived for it. He started growing that hair out, the hair on the face and on the head, and he was preparing for something, right? And as much as Claudia tried to keep it together, even when the situation happened with Funky Dineva, I wasn't hoping for the show's demise to happen then, but I knew ultimately it wasn't going to last because the fallout that Funky Dineva and Claudia had, to me, was not a huge shock because, like I said, I don't believe that she started out with this project in the right way because she did copy Nene's idea. I just have to be honest. She did. I cannot take that away from her. She may have been able to make it look more presentable, more professional, more, more feasible to the viewing audience, able to, because of her connections that she had with Fox Soul at the time, get this greenlit and get it done in no time. She may have been able to do those things, but you reap what you sow. And I never heard Nene share her thoughts on the situation when it comes to the show being created. But that's why I said before that I don't feel like Al is an innocent party in the situation, because if Al was that much of a friend to Nene, then he never would have participated in this venture. That's my personal opinion. So with all of that, and Claudia, I do believe, maybe not writing out the entire roast for Armon, but I believe that it could have been possible that she either could have helped him to write it, but definitely contributing some of the information because he wasn't there but a minute. How would he know all of these things that he said in this roast? And when he was reading it, he was stumbling over the words. And I just do believe that she contributed to the messiness behind the scenes. Having Lunel come on, knowing that they had a cease and desist from Star Jones where they could not discuss her, couldn't discuss the relationship that she had with her previous husband, and none of those things. And knowing now, after the fact, that Al and Claudia were not getting along, it does look like that she brought Lunel on to be messy, to ask those questions that Claudia and Armon were not allowed to ask or really talk about. It was like, it was okay if he talked about it, but they couldn't ask any questions because of the cease and desist. So let's bring on a guest host where she can ask the questions that we're not able to touch. And why would you do that? if there wasn't some get back, because she said he was going to production, trying to get the show canceled, trying to get Armand fired, blah, 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 being messy, trying to cause drama, but never really considering the fact that maybe all of this is happening because of how you started this, what you call your baby, out to be. And being so quick to utilize the idea that Nene put out there, she didn't think to protect her IP, her intellectual property. She never thought to take ownership of it, because if she was really smart about it, knowing Funky Dineva had the platform that he had, and if you were really thinking ownership, real ownership is not being an employee. I'm just going to say this like this. I'm an owner. I have a few businesses, not even a couple. I have a few businesses. I'm not employed by anyone. But that's not an easy thing to do, because most people who really have that boss mindset and they make business moves, we know that it takes time to build, and ultimately it takes time to really make the money. Even if you're making money, you're reinvesting into your business so that you can ultimately make more money. She was looking for the quicker opportunity and the quicker paycheck, versus thinking like a boss to say, well, you know what, Funky Dineva, you have a great YouTube platform. Maybe we can do something on your platform where we create either a playlist where we do this show on your YouTube channel, promote it, blah, 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 and we'll all have ownership in it. She didn't think to do that. She took it to the bosses, producers, whoever, the executives over at Fox Soul, and they're rubbing their palms together saying, yeah, let's do it. Looking at Funky Dineva, using him for his views, for his subscribers, using Claudia's, external beauty, and these other two gay guys, Gary with the T and Alreynolds, to be brought along, to go along to get along. And then we know Gary with the T wasn't able to continue, but I digress. If she was really thinking like a boss, she would have done it the slower, harder way, doing it similar to that, versus taking it to the network to have them do it so that you could get, a paycheck every week. Nothing wrong with being an employee, so I'm not knocking it. But that's honestly why I feel like she didn't think to protect her intellectual property, because this is not something that she may be used to. She's used to being employed by these different companies to get a paycheck versus putting the work in to make a paycheck. So even though she says she stays busy and she's got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of irons in the fire, great, good for her. I don't wish anybody to lose their properties, their cars, not being able to pay their bills, nothing like that. I don't wish that on anyone. But if you really are doing well and you're getting all of these great things, then you really have to be more careful about how you operate in that landscape. And being on Fox Soul, I don't care if they have soul in the name. The only soul that they care about is the almighty dollar. And Fox, the network itself, is owned by the Disney Corporation. These companies, these media organizations, they are huge, big time Trump supporters, the owners, okay? They don't care. They will happily have shows or people on their networks that will not be for Trump, not be Trump supporters, saying vote Biden 2024, whatever. They don't care. But when it comes to their bottom line, they want to see Trump in office, okay? So all the rhetoric and all the stuff that she was talking about and whatever, I have it in with this executive or this producer, or they really like me over here. Yeah, for the time being, until they don't need you anymore. And so honestly, that was coming to an end anyway, but they rapidly accelerated the demise of that show, and I definitely do believe that Claudia contributed. Pretty girl privilege, light skin or color, fair skin privilege or whatever. That's just, once it's done, it's done. And we are in an election year, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people are aware of and know about. I'll talk about that separately, but I definitely do believe that Claudia did contribute. I have to say that I believe Tasha K had some points when she said that Claudia, is messy or can be messy. And I didn't even really think about it, but years ago, Claudia was on a show that Carlos King produced called The Next 15. And I remember watching the show. I don't remember every episode of it, but it was a show that came on TV One. And Claudia, Tiffany Pollard, who goes by New York, was it Laura Govan? I think it's Laura Govan. She used to be on Basketball Wives. Karamo Jackson used to be on The Real World. Now he's a talk show host. And Jennifer Williams, who was on Basketball Wives, they were all on the show. I just have to say that she has some blame. She definitely needs to look in the mirror and just take accountability. And how do you think you were going to be able to continue to move forward with someone like Al, when you said, I think he hates me, when she said, I'm speaking like she's listening, but how did she think she was going to be able to move forward with someone that she said, I think hates me? And you have so much tension to the point where you're not even in the same state, same city. You're not in the same building. You're just seeing each other on these screens, this 3-way screen, for an hour, 5 days a week, making over 6 figures to do that. And you could not put your ego or pride to the side for a little while and not bring people on the show to poke the bear, to ask the questions about Star and the previous marriage, knowing that was a sensitive issue for him. And I do believe sharing information that either helped to contribute to Armand writing the roast, or she helped to contribute to the roast being written. That never should have happened on company time. Her being someone that had been with that network for all of those years, even though, yeah, they've talked about different things that I've cringed at before, especially when Funky Dineva was on there before, talking about his different sexual escapades and all that stuff that I really could care less to hear about, but I'm digressing. Some things you just have to remember, that when you are an employee, there's certain boundaries and lines that you should not cross. You do not cross. And when you know what your obligations and responsibilities are financially, you wouldn't want to cross. That would matter more than get back or trying to point the finger or trying to prove a point or trying to expose, somebody that you're working with, when you all ultimately kind of need each other. Seriously. And maybe vet better, because it definitely sounds like she wasn't an extremely good judge of character when it comes to him. I don't know how long they've known each other, meaning Al. But I would say that with all of those things being considered, but especially the first thing that I discussed, meaning that it didn't start out the right way because it wasn't done with good intentions, meaning this is just an idea that you came up with. No, it was something that you saw that you could do because you had the access, because you had the resources, meaning the people who had the money to make it happen. And she took that idea from Nene, and that's just not right. You could hate Nene, you could call her ghetto, ratchet, a man stealer, whatever else, all of those things you could call, and say about Nene, but we can't take that away from her. And I know how I am when it comes to business and ideas. I don't want anybody stealing my stuff or taking my ideas either. It's not cool. I don't like it. There's room for everyone, and there's also sometimes it's like you may come up with an idea that somebody else thought about, and it doesn't mean that you would necessarily act on it and do it, but it was just like, oh yeah, I thought about doing that before. It's so funny that this person's doing it because I had thought about doing that. Stuff like that indeed does happen. But when it's like this, where it's like, we know that you and this person, Nene, she and this person, Nene, have had these issues. They were on the Real Housewives of Atlanta years ago, one season together. From the jump, I did say this before too, I didn't feel like Nene was fair to her, or just like immediately it seemed like she and Portia were just like, yeah, that Claudia, the thirst is real. And I was like, where's this coming from? Because I didn't know anything about Nene. I mean, I didn't know anything about Claudia and why Nene would, you know, say those things about her. But yet and still, it was those tensions from years ago, and then commentary also after the fact that Claudia has shared about Nene on Fox Soul. It did just make it look like she was digging at this lady. And even after Nene's husband Greg passed away, she did a video where she was just like, please just leave me alone. Don't talk about me. Don't talk about my husband. Like, just leave me alone. So, yeah, you know? And there was, I guess, some falling out around that situation and Al and Claudia. So even back then when that happened. So, yeah, it's some personal things that she has allowed to get in the place of business and not conducting it as such. And so she definitely played a role in the demise of the show. So I can't 100% feel bad for her saying, you know, this is my baby and he came in and he ruined it. How do you think Nene feels about the idea that she had to see somebody else making it happen? And possibly, not saying that they did it better than she could have had she had the right backing and resources and whatnot. Because I believe she could have done absolutely great with, you know, doing something like that with an ensemble cast and having it produced in the proper way, not, you know, doing it as a, you know, little Instagram thing. Because I believe that Nene, she's been on television for so long, for so many years, that she should have had the opportunity to do something like that. But she's, like she said, she had been blackballed. And I can't blame anyone else but her on that, because if people choose to not work with you because they don't like your attitude or your ways or things that you've said or done, that's just, honestly, that's something that happens. It doesn't always have to be someone like Andy saying, yeah, do not work with Nene. It could just be they see what transpired and they're like, well, you know what? Andy's cool with me. I can't get down with Nene like that. I can't do that. And so people decide that they don't want to work with you. But I'm just saying, how do you think Nene felt when she saw the idea that she had to see the person that she did not get along with, Claudia, doing it? And one of the other people who talked about what she did as being ratchet, janky, ghetto, ridiculous, don't do it, throw it away, it's trash, it's a girl who let her do that, Funky Dineva, yeah, that would be hurtful. So I'm just thinking from a human perspective, with all of those things being said, yeah, it definitely played a role in the demise of the show. You don't start out right, it won't end right. And it may last for a while. You may be making money, bags on top of bags on top of bags, getting recognition, getting people to say, I love the show, whatever. Like, just because someone takes someone's idea or whatever the case may be, and they do it in the wrong way, does not mean that they may not do well. I'm not saying that it wouldn't do well. I'm just saying that ultimately those things don't work out. And so to see it playing out the way that it did, that's why it doesn't shock me. It doesn't shock me at all. So, yeah, I just wanted to do, as I said I was going to, keep my word, share my thoughts on what I thought about Claudia's hand in the demise of the show. And that's just how I feel. All of this is my personal opinion, and I would love to know what you think, so you can let me know in the comment section. Thanks so much, guys, for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.